All right, so the Department of Health and Human Services and the Department of Agriculture released the updated Dietary Guidelines for America today. So I'm here with Emery, and we're going to talk about it.
I'm so excited. When I saw the announcement and I went through the social media posts from the HHS, like my heart just sunk. I mean, this is just such an exciting announcement, and it feels like such a great accomplishment for the administration and for the future of the health of America. So I'm over the moon.
Yes, me as well. And just for context, they have to update these every 5 years. But the big ticket item that people are talking about, or at least one of them, is what they don't have to update every single 5 years is the food pyramid. So they did that in 92, they did it in 2005, 2011, and now in 2025, 2026, they updated it. And lots of new stuff to the food pyramid and to the guidelines in general. So we were just going to start out by watching the video that they have and then go from there.
Let's do it.
America is facing a full-scale health emergency. More than 70% of adults are overweight or obese. More than half are diabetic or pre-diabetic. Chronic disease touches nearly every single American family. This did not happen by accident. It happened because real food was pushed aside, replaced by highly processed products. Junk food became the foundation of the modern American diet, and we're paying the price with our health. But that ends today. We are resetting how our nation eats. Real food is back at the center of the American diet. Real food that nourishes the body, that restores health, that brings back energy, and that builds strength. This is what it takes to make America healthy again. Under the leadership of President Trump, we are reclaiming the food pyramid and fixing a system that has been broken for far too long. Today, HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins introduced the most significant change to federal nutrition guidance in the history of this nation. This is the new pyramid, Dietary Guidelines for Americans, a national reset built on real food.
I love that video. When I saw that video, I really got pumped for it, and I think that honestly, as you said, you know, the dietary guidelines are renewed every 5 years. And so for me, one of the biggest accomplishments that I'm seeing through this campaign is the marketing behind it. It's getting Americans excited to eat real food and to cut the processed food and to break our streak of being the highest the country with the highest prevalence of chronic diseases that we've been going on for a while now. I think that building that momentum and building that morale behind living well and eating well is so important, and I'm just so excited about it.
Yeah, I am too. I think they said it right with eat real food. It's as easy as that. I mean, I always think that the first thing to teach people when it comes to eating healthy is what is a whole food and what is not. And that's kind of like the center of this whole movement is like, let's get back to eating real food, whole foods, enough of this ultra processed stuff, enough of all these refined carbohydrates that are devoid of all the micronutrients. It's about eating real food. And it's going to be huge. I'm glad they're doing it. I think the hype video is great. The marketing's great. And yeah, I'm pumped.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, in the dietary guidelines, RFK Jr., he offers an opening statement, and he talks about how 70% of Americans are overweight or obese, which is absolutely wild. But I think even more wild than that is that he notes that 1 in 3 adolescents are pre-diabetic. This is the future of America that is starting out with a chronic disease that they haven't even entered in adulthood yet, and many of them are starting out with a chronic disease. Which is just absolutely devastating. And I think it's really important to note here is that these dietary guidelines will impact school lunches. And so it will directly impact the health of children, which again are the future of America. They're the future generations. And so I'm really excited to see that happen. And yeah, I think it's so important that he highlighted those statistics.
It's true, because the numbers don't lie. And you got to start out Right. Like you can't start out in life behind, and that's what these kids are getting in the schools with these foods. It's like it's unnecessary to just give kids lots of sugar, and give them some real food, give them some options, give them something that's gonna help them learn better in school. They can't learn if their lunches are devoid of micronutrients and healthy fats. The brain is built on healthy fats, so it's a whole thing. So yeah. I'm very grateful that that's what's happening.
Absolutely. I mean, kids today in schools, when they're eating these lunches with processed foods and these juices with added sugars, I mean, how can you even function in a classroom? How can you focus when your brain isn't getting the nutrients that they need? And you're also inflamed, right? And so your body's going to be in a higher state of stress. And so I'm also so excited that, kids are going to be nourished. And then also, another really amazing piece of all of this, behind just the model behind this release of these new dietary guidelines, is that it's only 10 pages, right? You noted in your earlier video that the previous guidelines were 150 pages. Nobody reads that, right? And so, even there's the schools that are going to abide by these guidelines, but also parents. Parents are going to read this, and they're going, as we hope that parents are going to read this and that they're going to be able to model their children's meals aside from school as well around these guidelines, as well as their own meals, as well as, single adults who also need to abide by these guidelines because they really are science-backed.
Yeah, and I remember in school when we were supposed to read the dietary guidelines, and I was like, I'm not reading 150 pages, but I read this one. 10 pages is easy, and it was very well written, very easy to read, and so I really hope that more people will read it, and more people will be able to understand the food pyramid, because I think it attracts a lot of attention, like you said, with the marketing, the fact that it is inverted, that it gets people's attention. It's funny because that was a whole South Park episode. I'm sure there's gonna be tons of memes about that, where they inverted the food pyramid, and that was the whole episode. So I bet you that was kind of like something that they were thinking with the whole marketing thing. So yeah, I think people will know, people will see, people will be able to understand it a lot more than the last one. So
Absolutely, it's exciting to see the food pyramid back. I never thought I would say that, because in the past the food pyramid was not science-based, to say the least, and not super helpful for anybody who saw it. And so I'm excited to see that it's back, and like you said, it's different, it's inverted, which I think was intentional, as you said. This is completely different. What we're doing here is we're not trying to promote sales of certain products. We're actually just trying to help you get healthier and give you a clear guideline as to what that looks like.
Oh yeah, and just like looking back at the old food pyramid is crazy, because literally at the base of it says 6 to 11 servings of things like bread, cereal, rice, pasta, and that was from 1992.
Yeah.
So I mean it's like, stack all the healthy food on this mountain of refined carbs is kind of what I'm reading with the old one. And then it's like, okay, 2 to 4 servings of fruit and vegetables, 2 to 3 servings of meat and dairy, and then, try to keep fats and oils and sweets to a minimum, which, I mean, that's true for, if we're talking about the seed oils and the sweets and sugar. So that's right. But, let's flip that where we have more like healthy sources of healthy fats, healthy proteins, and fruits and vegetables. And so I just love that. And I love that it's all inclusive of just food in general. It's not, we have a lot of people in the country right now that are either vegan or carnivore, and it's dividing, but this is all inclusive of whatever diet you want.
Right.
And it's all about just eating healthy food.
Yeah.
So I love that.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think even back to the 2011 food pyramid, if you zoom in on it, there's literally a vegetable oil canister. It says vegetable oil on it, which is wild. And so that's a major difference that we're seeing in this food pyramid, is that they do not recommend refined oils. They're asking us to, they're encouraging us to introduce fats that have a full fatty acid profile, like beef tallow and olive oil. Also, on the 2011 food pyramid, there was like canned tuna, canned green beans, canned peaches as involved with the meat, the protein section, as well as the vegetables and the fruits, which is just wild, right? The preservatives, the added sugars, the mercury that you have in that. It just yeah, again, was not science backed, and rather I think was more encouraging of just selling products. So.
My favorite part, and I think you mentioned earlier that it's your favorite part as well, of the dietary guidelines, not necessarily the pyramid, is just the emphasis on protein. So the protein recommendations were 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram. So you'd have to do the math, how many kilograms do you weigh, and then you 0.8 per kilogram. 0.88 grams of protein per kilogram. So they upped that to 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, which is massive, because what the 0.8 really was to prevent you from being malnourished in protein. So that was like the bar. If you get 0.8, then you're not going to have, major issues from being malnourished with protein. But really, we want to get that above 1.2, 1.6, and even more if you're lifting a lot of weights and you're very active. So I'm super pumped that we got past that 0.8, and then okay, now we're at 1.2 and above. So now we have some more breathing room, which is at least my favorite part of the whole thing. And I know you talked about it as well.
Absolutely. I mean, when I saw that, I got so excited. Like you said, they're literally doubling the recommended intake of protein. So that's a big deal. And
double.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love how the marketing of it, they said we're ending the war on protein, right? We're going to receive it for what it is, which is incredibly nourishing, essential for our diet. And they highlighted that should be a mix of animal protein and plant protein source. And so something I noticed in the whole document is that they kind of left the fear mongering around saturated fats, right? They did note it, and they talked about the recommended intake, and they left it there. Whereas previously we saw it kind of just throughout. There was this fear around saturated fat and around animal protein. And in this document, they even said, we recommend less than 10% of your calories be in saturated fat. And if you are removing processed foods from your diet, this is going to occur naturally, right? And so it wasn't necessarily this fear around animal protein, but rather the processed foods and the processed meats.
Right. And you don't have to necessarily be calorie counting, and as long as you're eating whole foods are more satiating, because things like protein, fiber, healthy fats are far more satiating. So you're not going to just overeat automatically,
right?
So it's like you don't have to necessarily calorie count if your body is just eating what it needs. That's a huge problem you have with these refined carbohydrates, is you have lots of calories, lots of bound up glucose, but you don't have any of those micronutrients. You don't have the fiber, you don't have the protein. So your body just ramps up the hunger. Hey, I need more food, I need more food, I need more food, because it's searching for those nutrients.
Right.
It gets the calories, but it doesn't get the nutrients. So you want both, and that's what a whole food is.
Yep.
And so, I mean, it's just like, that's it. They got it. They got it right.
Yeah, and I'll just say this lastly because my camera's dying, but another big shift that we see is the address of the microbiome, right? They're encouraging not only to have fermented probiotic-rich foods like a sauerkraut and kefir and kimchi, but also fiber-rich foods, right? To have those natural prebiotics to feed our microbiome, and noting the importance of that is something we haven't seen before, and that's just really exciting because, I mean, as we learned in school over and over and over again, the gut is really where everything begins when it comes to nutrition, right? Like 70% of our immune cells come from the microbiome. I think it's 90% of our neurotransmitters, right? And so it's so important for our brain health, for our immune health, and just overall functioning for our intestinal permeability to not be a problem, right? It's so necessary for us to support the gut. And so addressing that directly from the HHS is really great to see.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And, there's a lot more that we could talk about, but I think we're going to have to cut this a little short and encourage people to go read it themselves. And let's get excited about eating healthy in 2026.
So excited. Thank you so much.